I'm sure you have already read about the play and the importance of three witches. But while reading it, have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why three witches and not a fortune teller? Sophocles used a prophet in Oedipus Rex and still created one of the darkest tragedies in literary history. So, why did Shakespeare choose not one, but three terrifying witches to reveal Macbeth's future? Let's find out the answer together. First performed in 1606 during the reign of King James I, Macbeth remains one of the Shakespeare's most famous tragedies. Shakespeare's decision to use three witches rather than a single fortune teller is central to the play's structure, themes, politics, and dramatic method. The witches are not merely predictors of destiny, they are theoretical embodiments of ambiguity, temptation, disorder, and psychological projection. The first reason is the witches act as an agent of ambiguity. Throughout the play, witches create ambiguity appearance versus reality, prophecy versus choice, destiny versus self destruction. Their prophecies are deliberately equivocal. Macbeth will become king, Banquo will father king. Macbeth cannot be harmed by any man or woman born. Each prophecy is technically true, yet misleading. Here, Shakespeare shows us how language manipulates human interpretation. A fortune teller would only provide information, just like in the series Harry Potter. Professor Sybil Trelawney prophecies about Professor Dumbledore, Lord Voldemort, and Harry set the entire stories into motion. Unlike Macbeth's deliberately deceptive language, Trelawney's prophecy functioned more as revelation of destiny. The second reason, the witches and the Macbeth psychology. If you notice that before meeting witches, there is a similarity between Macbeth and Witch's Stone. Fair is foul and foul is fair. So foul and fair a day I have not seen. The witches do not create evil in Macbeth. Remember this. They awaken ambition and desire that he already possesses. As Macbeth said, stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desire. Both Banquo and Macbeth hear the prophecy but react differently. So we can say that witches resemble dark psychology of Macbeth. This is why Shakespeare uses witches instead of a fortune teller. A fortune teller predict, but the witches provoke. A simple fortune teller would not be powerful enough to reflect the dark ambition already present in Macbeth's mind. The third reason is fate versus free will. Perhaps the deepest reason why Shakespeare uses witches is to keep Macbeth responsible for his downfall. You may compare this with Oedipus Rex. Prophet Tiresias doesn't tempt Oedipus like witches. He simply reveals the truth. Tiresias says, "You are the murderer you are looking for." The horror comes from inevitable destiny. In Macbeth, the witches do something very different. They never tell Macbeth to kill Duncan. They simply say, "You shall be king." The horror comes from Macbeth's reaction. The tragedy of Oedipus Rex says, human beings are powerless before divine fate. But Shakespeare's Macbeth says, human beings help to create their own fate. Oedipus' tragedy is cosmic. On the other hand, Macbeth's tragedy is psychological. Fate destroys Oedipus, while Macbeth's free will destroys Macbeth. Tiresias tells Oedipus the truth he refused to accept. The witches tells Macbeth half truth he desperately wants to believe. That single difference explains why Sophocles needed a prophet, while Shakespeare needed three witches. The fourth reason is the power of number three. The number three carries mythic and dramatic significance. In many traditions, it represents completeness, ritual, and supernatural power, such as the three fates in Greek mythology and the Christian Trinity. Shakespeare reinforces this pattern through three greetings to Macbeth, three apparitions, repeated phrase like thrice to thine and thrice to mine. The repetition creates a sense of ritual and inevitable tragedy. The fifth reason is collective evil is more powerful than individual evil. A single fortune teller would remain an individual figure, but three witches create a collective supernatural force, almost like a dark chorus from Greek tragedy. If you notice, the whole play is in iambic pentameter, but only the witches speak in triadic tetrameter. Double, double, toil and trouble. Their chanting, shared speech, and triadic tetrameter separate them from the human world. They feel less like human and more like an embodiment of chaos itself. The sixth reason is dramatic and theatrical necessity. From a theoretical perspective, three witches create a stronger visual impact, rhythmic dialogue, and a mysterious atmosphere. Significantly, Macbeth begins with the witches, establishing darkness before the hero even appears. Their limited appearances are enough because their words continue to control Macbeth's action throughout the play. The seventh reason is magic versus limited knowledge. A fortune teller mainly reveals knowledge, but Shakespeare witches are active supernatural forces. They can appear and disappear, control storms, and psychologically influence Macbeth. Although they appear only four times, their influence dominates the entire tragedy because Macbeth becomes the instrument of the prophecy. The eighth reason is to please the monarch. Shakespeare wrote Macbeth during the reign of King James I, who had a strong interest in witchcraft. He also wrote a book, Demontology. He executed many people, especially women, on accusation of witchcraft. In Jacobean belief, the king represented divine order. By linking witches with regicide, disorder, and the corruption of nature, Shakespeare created a political warning that a simple fortune teller could never represent, and also enhance the entrance of the monarch in the play. We can say that the three witches are not merely plot devices. Shakespeare used them as a symbol of moral inversion, theatrical creators of atmosphere, political embodiments of disorder, psychological reflection of ambition, and philosophical instrument for exploring fate and free will. A single fortune teller could predict Macbeth's future. Only the three witches can transform the entire universe of the play into uncertainty, temptation, and tragic collapse. A fortune teller could have told Macbeth what would happen, but Shakespeare needed something far more terrifying: three witches who could transform a prediction into a temptation and a prophecy into a psychological battle. The greatest evil in Macbeth is not the witches on the heath, it is the darkness that their words awaken inside Macbeth himself. That is why Shakespeare chose three witches and not a fortune teller. If this journey into Shakespeare's world fascinated you and you wish to explore more hidden meanings behind great literary works, then like, share, and subscribe to the channel.